Hey guys, SKNOVA here. I'm getting a lot of questions about this topic, and I thought I would make a video. I was actually just leveling some items in just a random chat channel, and some people recognize me from YouTube. So they were asking me some questions about gearing characters, and this is actually a pretty common question that a lot of people have, especially starting out. I mean, there's so many different gear sets. What's good? What do people use? What they try out? So I thought I'd give a little overview. This is great for beginners. I definitely don't know everything about this game, so I'll give you kind of what I've learned and what I think is good. And feel free to chime in the comments and let me know if I'm a little bit off. So to start out with here, there's 12 maps in this game. Each map has gear of a different set. And just going on quickly, so one Carrot Castle, which you end up farming a lot because there's a lot of progress missions that end up there. Gives you life gear. Most of the sets either come in 2-piece or 4-piece varieties. The 2-piece ones typically increase the stat by, say, 12%. And the 4-piece ones usually have some different types of abilities, such as Retaliate or the Lifesteal set or those kind of things. So a little bit different, and they'll be a 4-piece set. So yeah, so Carrot Castle is this gives you a life set, gives you, I think it's like 12 or 15% life. We will see shortly. Sewers gives you attack. Now, I'd say these first 4 here are pretty important because your characters will be one of 3 types. They'll be have attacks based off HP, or attack damage, or defense. So those first 3 are pretty much the main stats for every character. So those types of gear sets are very important. The 4th one, Durham Forest, drops crit gear. Crit is also important for every single character that does damage. And there's at least one healer apothecary whose heals also can crit. So that is important. Stage 5 is accuracy. Now any character that has debuffs is going to need accuracy. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. 6 is speed, also super important. Most of the PvP and arena is all based around going first and attacking first, because a lot of times you either kill or nearly destroy or stun or, stop the other team from doing stuff if you can go before them. And if you don't go before them, oftentimes you lose. So speed becomes insanely critical in arena. Very important. Number 7, that it gives you resistance. Now resistance is actually, I think, if you look at people's characters' stat sheets, resistance gives you insanely high character skill points. However, most people never gear specifically for resistance because so many other things are better. And resistance is normally gotten from secondary stats on your gear, and oftentimes it's one that's not as desired, or people get it in the Great Hall as arena token bonuses. So those are 2 places that people get resistance. It is actually insanely important for arena defense, because if you don't go first, or you're playing against people that are higher up and they go first, this can prevent a lot of the counter debuff type stuff that they can put on you. But since arena defense doesn't really give you much, except for keeps your arena points, again, most people don't really care that much. They prefer to have stuff that they use all over the place. There's a few bosses. Let's say like the Void Keep Shadow that puts poison on you. Theoretically, I think maybe it can be resisted. Sometimes boss abilities can't be. But until they put something in the game where you really need to start resisting stuff, resist gear is not popular and not that desired. Number 8. So this is the Vampiric set. You can farm it here. And this is the main set for all the campaign farmers initially. So it'll probably be either a Executioner or Relic Keeper for most people. Although Relic Keeper sometimes doesn't use the Vamp set. And it's funny because then very late game clan boss, like end game clan boss, some teams run a weaker healer, a healer or a support character that can do more damage, and they end up putting Vampiric gear on all of their characters to keep them alive, because the Giant Slayer debuff procs, if you don't know any of that stuff, is you're just starting out, it's okay. Just know you'll probably want Vampiric gear in the beginning. It's one of the first sets that they give you as a sort of a login bonus, and you really want Vamp gear later on. and in between, it's just always good. So until you start getting really good healers for your team, vampires or lifesteal is very important. Number 9 is cruel. I think this stuff is the one that gives you, well, sorry, it's destroy. Not cruel. Decreases enemy max HP. So when you're using this and you see it go off, the enemy gets a little bit of a red bar, and then they cannot heal back up to that amount. So if the enemy heals a lot, potentially good. There's one dungeon boss that heals a lot. Well, and there's Fire Knight Castle as well, I guess. But most people, again, would go for that set, especially since it's a 4-piece set. So here is Retaliation. So Retaliation is when the boss attacks you, you have a chance to counterattack and attack back. It's 25%, so it doesn't happen all the time. Certain characters where they have, when people counterattack, they use their A1 ability. So there's some characters such as Vrask, the healer, who heals people based off hitting or critting with his A1. So Retaliation would be a good set for him. 11, I think, is it's a Fury set. Like theoretically, maybe good for characters that, I don't know, take a bunch of damage and can heal up without dying. But again, I think it's super niche and not many people use it. Number 12 is the heal set, which basically it's a 10% bonus heal, but it's 10% multiplicative, not an additive 10%, meaning that if you heal for 20%, now you heal for 22%, I believe. Pretty underwhelming, so no one really cares about that gear. The only thing about stage 11 and 12 is you farm it a lot because that's the highest XP you get from those gears. It's kind of hard to picture some of these gear sets, so I'll show you some of my characters and what I put on them, and this might give you a better idea of what you can use too. So starting off with Executioner, he was my farmer, and I do have a Relic Keeper, only level 40, so not really using him too much. But I used my Executioner pretty much all the way up until I even used him for the Minotaur layer 15, because he has a Tumult ability which reduces turn meter, which is very useful in certain cases. I used him all the way up until I got Big Gun here, who is probably the best campaign farmer in the game. But yeah, so for your campaign farmer, you're going to look for the Lifesteal set. So my particular Executioner, I ended up putting crit damage would have been better. I think at the time I didn't have them. And for a while I think he was just running attack percentage gloves. I put attack percentage on chest. So Execution is a little bit tricky, and a lot of people maybe gear him differently. I don't know if it's correct or incorrect. But if you look at his abilities, his A1 here is based off of attack. His A2 is based off of attack defense. Right? And then his A3 is his counterattack ability, which isn't really attack characters, but he attacks with his A1. So majority of the time, well, actually not majority, so your damage is going to be split between your A2 ability, your A1 ability when everything is on cooldown, and then when you're counterattacking, your A1 ability again. So in my mind, I think attack is actually more important than defense, because you want to be able to heal after you've been hit. That's what counterattack is good for. And for that heal, you're going to need to have attack. So for that reason, I stacked attack. If you disagree and you think you should stack defense, by all means, maybe it worked too. But you can see I put attack everywhere. I didn't have speed boots. I had attack speed boots. At the time, that's all I had, so I used that. Realistically, I don't know if speed, like going to a high speed, is really that important. You want to be able to go first in the rounds, so that part's important. But for your counterattack, you'd rather, not have the counterattack buff wear off in a lot of cases. And for that reason, you may not even want the speed on your Executioner farmer. So although I have a speed set, the reason I chose it, I think, was for I had a high crit rate on the weapon, and I had attack percentage on the boots, which is kind of what I was going for. The stats on that aren't super amazing, but it is what it is. you kind of see the total stats of my executioner there. I think it's pretty good. I tried to get attack percentage and crit damage where possible, but in the beginning I didn't have a lot of choices. You know, when you're starting out, you're campaign farming. I think when he was geared, I kind of stopped gearing him after I could do maybe Dragon's Lair 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, before I got Giant Slayer, right? So kind of just put the gear on him that was best. For accessories, I think the best stat, main stat, is probably HP. You can only get flat HP, flat defense, and flat attack on the ring. You can get those plus crit damage on the amulet, so then crit damage turns out to be the best stat to get. And on the banner, you can also get resistance and accuracy. And so a lot of times, accuracy is the best main stat to get. So if you have something like a debuff, so you see here, even Executioner has a chance of placing a speed debuff. I think the turn meter reduction might also be based off accuracy. Don't know for sure. But any debuffs like this, I think you kind of roll your accuracy against their resistance, and each one has a chance, whichever one's higher, it either resists or not. So for that reason, you typically want a reasonable accuracy. What is reasonable? For most campaign farming, anything over like 100 is probably fine. You probably won't get a huge number of resists. But as you start going into Clan Boss is probably the hardest PvE, and Clan Boss resist, I'd say it goes up to about 160 in Nightmare, something like that. So you have to be higher than his resist, or you're going to get a lot of misses. So, speaking of different types of healers, for Arena, my team is a speed-based team. So there's two characters that are really good in Arena, and they're kind of unique, but this is very common for a lot of support characters, both in Clan Boss and in Arena. We basically just go a full speed set. Everything is speed. So obviously you need speed boots, ideally speed class speed boots. So you see my Seeker here has 264 speed, and I also have Fushan, who has a 23% aura. It's not the fastest aura, and I've only really been out or beaten by a few other Seekers out there, usually with a Lord Shazar on the Arena team, who has a 32% speed buff in Arena. So super high. Basically, it's not perfect yet, but you can see, I think his, you got a 3 speed roll on his weapon. I think you can go up to a little bit higher. I don't know if it's 23 or 24 you can get. Needs more speed on his helm. 14 speed. There's 2 rolls on there. It's 3 rolls, it's only 4-star gloves, but 15 speed there. 14 speed on his chest. And then, 5-star speed boots as well. For the Seeker in particular, one thing that's very important about him is that he has a provoke ability. So his first skill here, you can see I've also skilled them up. He has a chance of placing provoke. So the most critical thing for me in Arena is for my Seeker to go first, and for him to either provoke or use the mastery that reduces turn meter, which is at the very bottom here. Decreases target's turn meter if the champion's first hit is with the default skill, which the Seeker does. So you reduce the turn meter by 20%. Either one of those two abilities has won me more Arena games than I can count. So that's how important it is. So I'm actually, I've thought about going all the way down and maybe getting Giant Slayer with him, trying him out in Clan Boss. I know a lot of people are having some awesome success with Seeker. Don't know how to Clan Boss him yet, or if I'd have to gear him differently. But yeah, so I put what I had that has high speed on him. Mostly geared for Arena. If you're gearing up a healer for the Nightmare Clan Boss level, like say your Apothecary, you would try to gear similarly. So here's my Apothecary, still in the gearing process. But the difference is you're not really going to put damage on him. You want him to be as fast as possible and survive as long as possible. So So I put HP, and I don't have better speed gloves, so he has flat defense, which is kind of terrible, but it has 13 speed on it, so I don't know if that makes up for it or not. Looking for better pieces. Next Dungeon Diver event, I will be farming the Dragon Lair a lot for better. So that gives you an idea for support characters, at least for higher level clan boss, which is kind of what I was aiming for there. I also have Steel Skull, who you can see is in progress. Similar thing where he's just trying to get as much speed as possible. I'm not actually using him yet, so be it. Let's talk about the characters that you have that will be potentially doing clan boss that also have debuffs. And Juliana is a pretty good example. Now, Juliana is a little bit unique in that her A1 fills her turn meter if she crits. So you actually do want fairly high crit. And then you can see here, I am lucky and I have exactly 100% crit. Because her A1 ability fills her turn meter, which is something you really want. The more turn meter she fills after her attack, the sooner she attacks again. And she also has two really important debuffs. She has her A2, which does poison, is the 5% poison, and it can put 2 poison debuffs on the boss, which is pretty amazing. And this is the other really important thing. Once you skill her up, it takes a ton of skill tomes to do it, but she essentially has a 100% chance, minus resist, of putting HP burn. HP burn is a super powerful ability, but again, as we approach Nightmare, you can see she has plus 160. So that's with gear. She doesn't have the right banner yet. She doesn't have an accuracy banner, which is why it's not quite up there. But I think I also have 50 or 60 points from the Great Hall in accuracy. And her HP burn gets resisted a lot. I'd say half of all of her HP burn attacks get resisted, which is kind of one of the reasons why people kind of stopped using Juliana in Nightmare. Like up to Brutal, she was really good, but after that, she falls behind a little bit and starts getting resisted more. So I'm still waiting for an accuracy banner. Don't have one for Secret Order yet. But so the reason I geared her with what she has, speed is always important in Clan Boss and in Arena. So give her speed. I gave her some crit gear to try to get her crit up. I even gave her crit rate rather than crit damage because I did want the 100% crit. So that characters that need the crit, probably important to make sure they have it. And what did I give her on the chest? Oh, she only has a flat HP. It has high crit rate and high speed. So it's just too bad that this was an HP percentage instead of just flat HP. So it's a little bit less than what it could be. An HP percent, 50% HP percent is like 7,500 HP. It's an extra 5,000-ish HP from what it could be here. So, yeah, pretty much speed boots for everybody. Pretty much all cases you'd want speed boots. The only case you don't, again, is your campaign farmer with counterattack. If you had someone like Relic Keeper, you probably would also want speed. I mean, in cases where you might be able to go an extra time in a round, that is extremely important. But I did put accuracy pieces on her just because the accuracy pieces had decent stats. They had speed, and she needs the accuracy. So it's kind of like a balanced approach. You need a little bit of everything. There's another character that's similar. Kind of needs a bit, doesn't need the debuff stuff, but so I have Vaskir, also an interesting character to gear. If you look at any given character, I mean, these are unique ones, but everyone's different. If they have an ability that you really need to have crit, obviously you need to get their crit as high as possible. And then you look at, I don't know, it says epic, it says HP. So like, oh, so he's probably an HP character. That's not the sole way to find out. You have to look at his abilities. It's funny how many characters are called HP and then their damage is based off of attack damage. Very confusing. But his attack is actually based off his HP. So the more HP he has, the more damage he does. However, his damage is still fairly low. That's not why you bring him. It's not about his damage. It's about his ability to, whenever he crits, this passive goes off. Let's read that correctly. where he heals his allies based off of his max HP. So it's important to note if it's this character's HP that heals them, or another character's case where it's based off the other character's max HP. So a lot of people want to get this guy's HP as high as possible. Getting him to 6 stars, I've heard people getting 50, 60, 70k HP. His damage scales off of that as well, which is fantastic. You'd want to get like all HP stats here. He doesn't have any debuffs, so you don't have to worry about that. So all HP with HP percentage is number one option. So like, no, not that one because it's only 3 stars. I don't have a good 5-star banner with just HP on it. Oh, there's one 5-star amulet HP. So that's kind of what you'd be looking for. As much HP as physically possible while still getting the 100% crit, which is super important. You start looking for all these life pieces. I mean, Divine Life would be better, but not really necessary because or Immortal, I guess, because it gives him a heal. But whatever you can get that has high crit. So you can see, I chose this one because it's that particular piece has 9% crit. The helm, 9% crit. So I chose all of the life pieces I can find that have crit. This gauntlet just happens to have crit rate, which he also needs. They don't have a better one. I have HP percentage, but then his crit rate would probably have dropped down too low. Some crappy boots with speed on them, but also have crit rate. And then pieces I couldn't get, I filled in with HP, or crit gear with HP on it. So there's another interesting character. So again, look for debuffs. For a standard attack character, right, you want to do as much damage as possible. I just put on these crit damage set that you can get from farming the Fire Knight's Castle at high level. Can be pretty good. You still want to keep your crit really high. So for most damaging characters, you don't need to have 100% crit. You want to have as high crit as possible, but typically you'll put crit damage on the gloves. And the really sad thing about these gloves is they rolled a perfect worst flat attack stat when they had attack percentage and defensive percentage, which even would have been better. But had it rolled a perfect attack percent, it had 21 or 20% attack instead of 65 flat attack. These would have been the most amazing gloves ever. Instead, they are good, maybe mediocre, but they don't have better crit damage ones. But you can see, don't have a 100% crit rate. He does have a skill that kind of relies on critting. So if he gets crit, he gets a single increased attack buff. I use Royal Huntsman in Arena quite a bit, where I don't even end up using his A1 ability. I use his A3 ability to basically one-shot most enemies, which is absolutely amazing. And occasionally, if they still survive, I will use this one. And more occasion after that, if there's a third attack and he's not already dead because he's kind of squishy, then he gets his A1 ability. So yeah, so I geared him. You get your crit rate as high as possible. You might put a crit set on your attacking heroes. You might put just an attack set, because you probably end up with lots of those too. So between those two, and if you have crit damage set, that's fantastic. That is super common. Some of the other gear sets that you could put on. What else could you even use, really? You could, I mean, the divine versions of everything would be good, but those are pretty hard to farm because you really only get them from arena chests, or recently you could have bought a few sets. For some of the more tanky characters, you could use some of the, we'll call them CC abilities, like the stun set, which also comes from Fire Knight Castle. You could use, I think Cruel comes from farming as well. The Savage set, ignoring enemy defense, is actually pretty huge, especially now where most people's defensive teams have defense type heroes. Ignoring 25% defense is a huge damage boost. One of your characters on a defensive team will probably have a shield set. Again, most of these ones all farm from the Fire Knight's Castle, I guess because it's the hardest place to go. Toxic is one set we should talk about. So when you're farming easy, normal, hard, even up to brutal clan boss, it's very common to see a toxic set. The only catch to toxic set that you have to be careful of is the clan boss has a limit on the number of debuffs that he can put on him. So if everybody has toxic set, plus you have your KL and your HP burn and every other debuff that you're tossing on the clan boss, you can get to the point where the buffs start to push other buffs off. I'm actually not sure if they push the other buffs off or they just don't land anymore. I think they might even push other buffs off. So that could be bad in the case where, say, you had a 5% poison debuff getting pushed off by your 2.5% poison debuff, or your decreased defense, or something else that's very important. So you don't necessarily need it on all of your characters, but putting on one or two of your characters is probably not a bad idea. So toxic actually has quite a good use. Retaliation we touched on. So I should open up here so you can see what the thing is. The counterattack ability is really good. Now there's a little bit of a controversy over whether you should go retaliation or relentless. So relentless is here, so I'll show you relentless. So retaliation is you counterattack as a 25% chance to counterattack. Retaliation is an 18% chance that after you attacked, you get another turn. The cases where you want relentless are where you can get more than, I don't know what the percentage works out to be. If you can get 2 attacks per turn, relentless is definitely better. It's probably like 1.7, 1.8 attacks per turn, which means like every 3-4 turns you get an extra turn. Where relentless actually ends up better. Also in cases with retaliation, if you are fighting a boss and you put slow on them, you have turn meter reduction, you have certain phases where you're trying to keep them in a phase for longer. Relentless is better because ideally you get an extra attack during that, say, burn phase that you wouldn't get with retaliation. So there is a case for both. Retaliation is a little bit easier to get because it's on Ice Golem instead of Fire Knight. Both are good. As you can see, I haven't farmed Fire Knight that much, but I don't really have any really good Relentless gear, so I don't have it on anybody. But someone like Vrask would be a good candidate for it, someone that you really want their A1 to hit a lot. As you get to Clan Boss higher up, he gets so fast that it's very unlikely you're going to get multiple hits per turn. And the 4 item sets kind of take up slots for gear that you could get. That could potentially be 40% crit damage, or 24 speed, or whatever 2 speed sets gives you. So those are the main sets that you kind of would see a lot. I could see regeneration being useful in certain cases. It's kind of like a passive continuous heal, 10% continuous heal every turn. That is pretty awesome. It's just too bad it's a 4-piece. If you could partner that with something like the one where if you lose health, you go better. What is that? Is it cursed? No. Fury? Yeah. So your damage increases each. So if you get some place where you're constantly taking damage, you're also constantly healing yourself, I can see that being good. But in most cases, probably not the best. The last set that I think we're talking about that people are using, so skill cooldown can be pretty powerful, right? Because that could be make it or break it for a lot of cases. Opens up the world of RNG a little bit, and I don't know if it reduces the cooldown 1 turn or if it reduces it entirely. So if you had a 6 or 7 turn ability, if it reduced it entirely, that would be insanely overpowered. But I think even just 1 turn, right, makes things much better. So there are certain character classes, maybe healers, maybe high damage or very important debuffs, that are on like a 3, 4, or 5 turn cooldown. That being able to reduce their cooldown by a few turns is insanely powerful. There's a lot of masteries. There's a couple of masteries in the support tree that kind of do the same thing, but this gives you a high chance of doing that too. So you do see this reflex set used on, I think I've heard it used on characters like Fushan, for example. So Fushan has a skill here, Shred. super important. You can see I've even got his cooldown down 1 turn, which is, I think, pretty lucky, because legendary books are freaking expensive. I wish I had both cooldowns, but I think I probably need to burn a lot more books in order to get there. But it's a 4-hit attack, so it's not like Clan Boss with Giant Slayer where you want to have multiple hits. Plus, this gives decreased defense. That's probably one of the most important cooldowns you can have for him. He's often used because of his speed aura, but his A1 ability can proc multiple hits, but it's typically just a 1-hit A1, so it's not often as good as other choices, but still can be a pretty damaging. So if you had this shred ability going off, more often, he could be a formidable Clan Boss character, and I think for that reason, I think I've seen him used in Clan Boss quite a bit, but you do need to spend the legendary tomes to get his skills down, which I don't know how many tomes that's going to take. There's 7, 8, 9, so 9 more tomes, and the average of $10 to $15, $20 a tome, whatever it probably works out to be. That's a pretty expensive character to level up. So until I can farm legendary tomes easily, I might have to wait on that. That's just an example. I'll do a brief dungeon description, because that's probably the last part of the guide here. Hopefully this is informative for people. They're learning a lot. There's sort of the 4 main dungeons that you're going to get gear from: Ice Golem's Peak, Dragon's Lair, Spider's Den, Fire Knight's Castle. You click on them and it does show you the gear types. But kind of what I'd recommend too is, until you can start farming 5-star gear, you don't really go crazy farming these things. It's not hard to get to, say, stage 11 to 13 on most of these just by leveling your characters. So leveling the characters is probably the most important thing. Get them up to 60. Get at that point, when you're level 60, you can really just do the normal campaign. Farm the normal campaign, get 5-star gear with the correct main stat on them, level those items up to, say, 12 or higher, kind of depending what secondary stats you get, and you'll be well enough geared to do probably up to 13, maybe even 14 on a lot of these stages if you have a team of 5 like that. If you're trying to farm the higher stages, so stage 15, at that point you really want to get Giant Slayer Mastery, so go back and start farming Minotaur Lair. If you can do stage 13 and 14 of these dungeons pre-Giant Slayer, you can easily farm the Minotaur. All you probably need is a decent healer, or the shield set, or something to keep you alive for the first few turns, and then go all out on his burn phase and you should be able to get him. So oftentimes most people end up farming Dragon's Lair. The other sort of catch to farming these is you have to kind of look at what the affinities are later on. So people will often get stuck on one affinity type. For some people it might be the Force, and for some people it might be the Spirit, depending if they have a lot of Force or Magic type damage dealers. There's really not as many Spirit type damage dealers on average from what I've seen. So most people don't often have trouble with the blue guy. Yeah. Or I guess the red ones. I don't know. This Dragon's Lair is not too bad. If the last boss is red, that's the one I had the most trouble with. Yeah, because you don't have a lot of Spirit damage dealers, so you have trouble with the Force Keep. Oh, I'm just slow tonight. So people farm Dragon's Den for a few of the gear sets. Accuracy, speed, lifesteal, all very important. Toxic, also really good going on in the beginning. The rest of them, hit or miss. So if you count those up, 1, 2, 3, I'd say 4 out of 9 are really good. Stalwart, maybe could be used for a very tanky person. If you farm Dragon's Lair a lot, like say you do 30 runs one day or over a few days, you're going to get probably an average mix of most of them. The higher levels, 14 and 15, obviously the higher you go, the less 4-star gear you get, the more 5-star gear you get. But I found stage 14 and 15, the rate of epics for both of them is probably about 1 in 4. I've done hundreds, or maybe a couple hundred. Dragon's Lair runs between 13 and 15. What I found on stage 15, probably about 1 in 4 is epic, and on 15, probably about 3 out of 4 of them are 5-star. There is no 6-star in the game, so keep that in mind. Although this says 4 to 6 stars, there's only 4 and 5. There is no 6. So you need to farm both Ice Golem's Lair and Dragon's Lair, not just one. People like the speed gear from Dragon's Lair and the vamp gear for later clan boss. That's very often. But the crit, offense, defense, those sets can be very good here, as well as reflex in certain cases. Most of the other ones, taunting, cursed, resistance, even retaliation, don't really see a lot. And to the final one here, Fire Knight Castle. I'd say shield, crit damage, and savage are probably the 3 good ones. Fury, curing, don't really use. Immunity, I haven't actually seen a lot of, to be honest, but I think it makes you immune for the first 2 turns, which sounds kind of overpowered in Arena now that I think about it. I'd have to look more into it, so let's click on it. Immunity, yeah. Immunity for 2 turns. I don't know if this makes you immune to debuffs, or it makes you immune to damage. I'm thinking it's immune to debuffs, maybe that's why it's so weak. I'll have to go back and read the Flarium definition of some of those sets. But Savage is good. Savage is the ignore defense one. Stun could probably be pretty useful in Arena. Crit damage is probably the most in demand. And then Shield. So Shield, the only reason it's not in super high demand is because you do get a bonus free shield set just from progressing. I'm not sure if it's the daily logins initially or if it's one of the progress missions or both. But you do get a shield set. The other ones of these sets you don't really get. Fire Knight, therefore, is not one that people like to farm a lot of. And until you start getting a really good, Giant Slayer clan boss team, which sort of lines up really well with the Fire Knight, because both of them you want multiple hits, you probably won't really consider farming Fire Knight that often. The final one, which is possibly the most important, because it deals with your accessories. Now, accessories, especially the banner, become extremely important. The ring is basically just a stat stick. You want your whatever HP or defense or attack main stat, and then the other 3 or 4, I guess, stats you want as much percent stat as you can get. Ideally 3 out of 4 of them are. I don't think you can get crit on your ring at all, or speed, or I don't think you can get accuracy. I think it's just purely the main 3 base stats. Right, so if you get 3 base stats, if it's an epic ring, and you get a good roll for all the bonuses, that's a good ring. Pretty basic, but definitely important. Now the neck, for most damage dealers, you're going to need crit damage. For everybody else, you're probably going to want HP. The attack is sort of underwhelming, right? Because most of your attack characters will have 3,000 or 4,000 attack, and to get an extra 200, not as big a deal. But I guess you can say the same thing about having 30,000, 40,000 30 or 40,000 health and getting an extra 2,000 or 3,000. Not a huge difference, but it is something. But the crit damage, definitely very valuable. The banners, however, I'll just show you some banners instead of just showing you the boring Fire Knight Castle there. People are summoning some awesome legendaries tonight. So banners, the advantage of the banners is they can come with accuracy, like that one there. They can come with resistance. If I have anything, there's a resistance one. There, accuracy, resistance, and the other important thing about them is they can have speed. So they can have 3 stats you can't get on any of the other accessories. For that reason, that makes those type of accessories super important. And so for a character like Seeker, what do I have on him? I happen to get very lucky and I got a banner with 13 speed, right? So it's not quite max. Max would be like 20-ish, but still pretty good. And I think I even put crit damage on his neck. I just figured, maybe some of his minuscule attack would be important. I really don't have a lot of attack percentage on him. Like I said, it's basically just going for pure speed and hope that he got to go first, so he gets his turn buff increase. Now, one thing to consider is sometimes you don't really care too much about the set bonuses, right? And then especially in the beginning when you don't have a ton of gear, you haven't been able to farm, Dragon's Lair and Ice Golem a lot. It is still okay to mix and match a piece, like having, say, 5-star gloves with crit damage over, 4-star gloves with flat attack, just because it matches a, attack percentage set piece. You're probably better off breaking the set and getting the higher star gear with better stats, right? Even stuff like the crit sets, if your crit sets don't also have crit percentage on them, like say you get a helm, and I'm kind of lucky. The reason I chose this helm is because it has crit rate on it. But say you get the crit helm, and it doesn't have any crit rate on it. It doesn't roll that stat. And then the shield here, pretend it also did not have crit rate stat. You put those two on, and you do get the 12% crit rate. But what if instead you could use a life set, and each of those life pieces had 12% crit, right? So instead of getting 12% crit for the set, you might get 24% crit plus a different set bonus. So you don't necessarily have to have a crit set if you're trying to get crit, I guess is what I'm saying. So I chose to show you Sneasha because I happen to have a ton of this really good Avenging gear. I was going to use Sneasha for Spider Boss. And I'm like, well, maybe if I make her HP low enough, like I don't give her any really HP gear, and I just try to get her other stats up, like crit, and I had speed boots, and I had crit damage gloves and attack percent chest. I tried to choose defensive percentage where possible. Obviously, helmet has HP, and you can't avoid it entirely because some things are going to roll HP percentage, like these gloves. But we'll see how it goes. It's still a work in progress. She still needs more gear. Her power is still relatively low. And then I just happened to roll a Sylar today, who is a Void hero, very similar in terms of being able to farm the Spider Boss with Attack All. And she even has a speed meter decrease, which makes her even better on the Spider Lair. So maybe I will use both. Or maybe I'll just use Sylar. I don't know yet. But sort of changed my ideas about gearing up Sneasha, even though I turned her to level 60. Yeah, we'll see. Probably use both. My goal is to be able to auto farm Spider 15. I think it's mostly just a personal goal. I can already manual do 14 pretty consistent, well, very consistently. I always win, it just sometimes takes a little longer. 15 I'm still struggling with. But, I mean, struggling with it in the sense that I probably can beat it. It just will take a really long time. Once it seems like it's going to take more than 5 or 7 minutes, I'm like, that's not farming anymore. That's just no fun. Unless I can auto it. And then I can do it without watching. But, so I'm trying to build a little bit of a spider team. I had Zargella. For those of you who don't know, Spider Lair 15 is a Force boss. So again, you need either Spirit or Force type heroes, ideally. I have Big Un, who's an awesome AoEer. Works great for 14. I haven't even finished 15 yet. So you go, 14 I finished in 2:18, and 15 sort of struggling because my team has and Tyrell. So I use Tyrell. Tyrell and Big Un both have turn meter decrease. So that's what makes it so much better that I can keep Spider from healing up, and I can beat him in sort of 2 heal phases. That was pre-bad L too those times. It's slower now for sure. Pre-bad L nerf. I was trying to use Sneasha in there too, and I noticed it's even slower. So I'm like, yeah, she needs better gear still before I can consider using her. And then I can auto farm Spider's Lair. All the other dungeon keeps aren't really a big issue because I have tons of potions. But yeah, so those are those 4. Obviously, the first important goal is to be able to farm Minotaur 15 as fast as possible so that you can get Giant Slayer. And then, I mean, the fast times here are minute 7. That's when I'd probably have Giant Slayer on 4 out of 5 of the characters I was running through there. That's why it was so much faster. Initially, my times were just over 3 minutes when I first started farming Minotaur 15, and that was with a really geared level 60 team. And then I got Bad Alcazar part way through that, and this was pre-nerf, and everyone was doing way too much damage, and I probably was on a minute 40. I dropped like almost half the time, and that's when I was lucky enough to farm all my characters up to get Giant Slayer. So I can think Giant Slayer, Giant Slayer. Pretty much every. I don't think I leveled any characters up that didn't have Giant Slayer. I didn't get all of their Divine Scrolls, but yeah, even the Steel Skull was working on them. Lethal, even Executioner. And these guys, nope. Oh man, hadn't even started. Fun. More stuff to grind. So cool. It's a long video, but it's an important topic. And I know it's very tough in the beginning on how to gear. So I'll just do a quick recap. If you're still with me, that's awesome. Most people are probably tuned out by now, but this recap will be hopefully helpful. So you're starting off, you're normal, you farm, you're going to get stuck somewhere around 8 to 12 is when difficulty kind of ramps up. You're going to want to know how to gear. Spend the time leveling in the levels that you can, especially these first 3. There's tons of progress missions and stuff. Hopefully you get some 3-star gear or whatever. Level it to 4 or 8. Don't waste much silver on it. And just keep leveling. The leveling with relatively decent gear will get you through most of normal. Get yourself into hard. Do the same thing. But now you're hopefully farming some Executioner. The goal will be to farm, 11 or 12 in hard. Start getting your characters up to level 50. Once you're kind of level 50-ish, so don't do any dungeons. Don't even think about dungeons until your characters are sort of level 50. And at that point, you're kind of considering maybe getting to 60. You've farmed your Executioner up to max skills. Maybe you worked on your Relic Keeper a little bit. At this point, now you're going to start thinking about, okay, now I got to try to 3-star all of normal and hard, and then start working my way through brutal. You're going to need people geared up. At that point, hopefully you can then start ascending some of your characters by doing the keeps. So when you ascend a character, it increases their base stats. And a lot of the gear that's percentage based, like attack percentage, defense percentage, HP percentage, is based off of your base stats only. So until you're getting high star gear with percentages, the flat stats can actually be better or pretty much equivalent to what you can get on like a 3-star attack percent. Well, maybe not quite. Without doing the math, it's not as important to get the attack percent gear right away. You want to be able to get that from farming brutal. Or, that's when you can start looking at Ice Golem's Peak, 11, 12, 13. Those ones will start giving you some 4 and 5-star gear, which is pretty good. And you'll start getting a few epic pieces occasionally. It'll be a lot of farming. And it'll be a big energy sink. You'll spend a lot of energy farming those pieces, but you'll have to do it. So you'll ascend your characters, which also sucks up a ton of energy. That's kind of painful. You get the gear, which helps improve your characters, only so you can farm Minotaur. And I think you want to be able to farm Minotaur. It's a very slow process, so you got to do a little bit a day. It's going to take months to do if you're free to play and you're not spending gems on energy. But that will propel you huge once you start getting Giant Slayer in your characters. Then you can definitely start farming stage 14 and 15 of all the dungeons pretty regularly. And by farming, I mean you can probably do it on auto versus having to manually do it and take 8 minutes a dungeon. You can probably auto it in 2 or 3 minutes. That's what farming probably should be. You're not going to be getting epic gear every turn, so expect to go 4, 5, 6 turn or 6 rounds to get an epic piece. And then probably 1 out of every 4 to 10 epic pieces you get will be really good, or good at all, or usable. And You just gotta wait. So it's gonna be a lot of farming there too. So you don't have to jump into dungeons and start wasting your time trying to farm, Ice Golem 7. It's useful. You can do a little bit of it, but that's not the focus. Don't worry about Spider's Lair until you're getting level 60 characters and you're 6-starring them. Spider's Den isn't even that important. I mean, the neck is important too, I guess, 5-starring them. That crit damage will make a bit of a difference. That's not necessarily make or break it. Because you're probably not pushing, hard or brutal clan boss either. So the accuracy banner isn't going to make a huge difference for you. And the extra speed isn't going to really matter that much. You can get that on the rest of your gear. So yeah, that makes sense. So, and then once you start getting your campaign farmer to level 60, then you switch up to brutal. Then you start farming it, with the goal being eventually to be able to farm 11 or 12, depending if you have Relic Keeper or Executioner, consistently. Bring 3 food characters along, level them as fast as possible. Get your rest of your team to level 60, so that you can farm Giant Slayer, so then you can farm dungeons, and you can keep making your characters better and better, and then you can probably start thinking about ranking up in Arena. But realistically, the way Arena is right now, I can't imagine how hard it is for someone, especially free to play, to even challenge us. Like, look at all these teams, mostly Asian teams. It's not saying that whatever. Maybe they spend more money. Maybe there was some hacking going on. Who knows? But pretty much every team is all legendaries, right? So until you can face that with your own legendary teams that are super well geared, that have masteries, a lot of these have masteries based solely for Arena. It's going to be very tough for most people to break into Gold 4 Arena. And the farming for, what it takes to farm up stuff in Arena now is going to be super tough in the long grind too. So I don't think Arena is the way to focus. I think it's better to try focusing on clan boss stuff early on. You can get some different shards and stuff from the clan boss, so totally worth it. And hey, at the end of the video, I actually used an extra key so that I could get ultimate chest. Getting 2 of them. This is my first ultimate chest. Might as well open it up here. Hey, not bad. 5-star Immortal Helm with terrible secondary stats. That's unfortunate. That's how it goes. And ooh, an epic tome and an ancient shard. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Gotta like that. Oh yeah. And just for fun, we'll pop open this ancient shard to end the video with grabbing a legendary. Why not? That'd be a great way to end a video, hey? Even an epic. Or, we'll just get a cataphract and turn them into food. Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. It was a long video, but hopefully you learned something. Leave some comments below. I'm trying to do a better job of answering people's questions. Hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey, so here I was in chat the other night. Just want to give a quick shout out to Mad Hatter 89 and Dr. Pocket Tank. I guess they're fans of the channel. Just want to recognize them here. That is awesome. I don't normally get treated like a celebrity. It's kind of cool to see people that are watching these videos, so thank you very much. Keep watching, and yeah, you guys made this video.